Hi everybody, this is Thove bringing you Chapter 4, Part 2 of my Fire Emblem 4 LTC. While Chapters 1 through 3 overlap with their predecessor maps, Chapter 4 sees us whisked away to Silesse, Lewyn and Erinys' homeland. This is a giant map where we first have to get to Thove in the top right. There is an additional wrinkle in that the shortest path to Thove requires Dew to open a bridge, which means we need to get both Sigurd and Dew to the top right for the fastest clear. Without Dew, Sigurd would have to go on a prolonged excursion through the mountains to reach the castle. As such, leg ring on either Sigurd or Dew ends up causing the other to fall too far behind, and the fastest clear requires giving Sylvia the leg ring. Sylvia pilots the leg ring and night ring to become an honorary mount, but with the better terrain properties of an infantry unit. Older LTCs would then transfer the leg ring to Sigurd for the later part of the map, but we actually will keep the leg ring on Sylvia for the whole map. Now that we have seen the entirety of the Generation 1 cast, a lot of our units will end up dedicated to accelerating pairings. We have 4 different couples trying to shack up the old-fashioned way. Claud and Edain are of course the most important pair, and for the first part of the map they will take the help of Erinys and Ira to accelerate them. Edain as such will be outdoors and not in a position to use warp at home, the way she and Deirdre were in the past. She does need to grind some more EXP to level cap, and so Arden will be occupied with getting himself hurt and walking outside, to be healed by Edain and returned back home by Erinys, who promoted to gain C staves and has time during the early parts of the map to just spam staves to pad out her levels. We rig a ton of magic on her, which will come in handy at a later point in the map. Ira will have Lex stay by her for the whole map, of course. I mentioned it offhandedly earlier, but I actually rig many strength level ups on Edain and Claud to inherit more strength on Lester. It certainly was not needed, and you probably could save a lot of time by just passing on those and just rigging Lester a few extra strength procs later. But it didn't feel too bad because these rigs are typically for level ups off of staff uses. Claud cannot really do anything meaningful for Lester inheritance wise, so we'll just leave that front be. The next couple to consider are Midir and Brigid. They can only be accelerated by Tailte and Sylvia, and since Sylvia is off helping with the clear, they cannot rely on jealousy during the ride up to the first castle. The last couple to consider are Dew and Lachesis. Dew of course must trek up to the northeast for the LTC, and this requires Lachesis to tag along. While Sylvia is in the rough vicinity, Tailte is not, and as such they too cannot use jealousy. Fortunately for us, the way the movement works out, Dew and Lachesis can end every turn adjacent barring one, and in fact we actually want Lachesis to travel to Thove for a brand new strategy we want to show off, so this pairing continues on pace as well. Putting the leg ring on Sylvia also ends up being an invitation to send 3 more units along with the aforementioned Sigurd, Dew and Lachesis, and our units of choice will be Nisha, Azel and Beowulf to put kills on the Javelin, Lightbrand and Steel Sword respectively. Now that Beowulf is promoted, he is better at this than Alec thanks to gaining Adept on promotion, so between Adept and Onslaught he can just proc skills in order to kill units that he wouldn't be able to cleanly kill, unlike Alec. The armory brings us a Wind Tome, Recover Staff and Return Ring. Azel has to spend a lot of money to buy the Lightbrand at full uses, so he'll buy the Thieves Sword to raise some money as he rides up north to ensure he'll be able to buy Paragon for the next chapter. In hindsight, I'm not entirely sure if the correct move for Edain would be to delay her staff purchases to later in Chapter 5, at a point where she can actually buy the bargain ring. Some back of the envelope math suggests that it might end up saving some money to do things that way, which would allow for Dew's money to be allocated to other places where they could translate to more level ups. We drop Sylvia to 1 HP in the arena and will heal her with Lachesis. This, combined with castle healing later, will give her a miracle setup for Fight 3. The Bolganon animation at Fight 7 is a real time waster. The fact that it looks just okay at 16x speed should be a reminder as to how awful it is normally. The nearest enemy that Lewyn can poke at for EXP is the pirate attacking the nearest village. Dew can theoretically give money to Brigid turn 1, so if a run were aiming to maximize EXP, it would probably want to do that. All the pirates are actually affiliated with Thove, and so will go away as soon as it is seized. The yellow wind mage across the bridge prevents us from visiting the latter half of the map for now. Dew being promoted allows him to reach and steal from this pirate on turn 2. Equipping the Earth Sword also lets him pull off an AI manip. The Bishop among the Wind Mages has a Sleep Staff and pretty high magic, but he also has a Physics Staff which he prefers to use. So long as there is a damage subordinate within range when he has to move, he will not status us. Dew with the Earth Sword can safely bait a Wind Mage without killing him on this turn to produce that damaged target. This rig of Claud's level that's going to be coming up goes on for a long time, and I've put a timestamp in the description for when it ends. turn 3, Lewyn reaches the pirate and finishes his map training arc. He will then run backwards and be returned home by Erinys to await Azel turning in the Paragon ring. Colin and Alec just idle near the home castle for now. They're backup return targets. This Wind Mage who attacks Nisha gets chipped down to defuse the Sleep Bishop on this turn. This enemy phase really shows off how much Azel has grown. With the Lightbrand, he has weapon triangle advantage over all the Wind Mages at range and cleanly one-rounds them, while with his 11 strength he can also one-round them from up close. He does have some shaky hit rates, especially at 1 range, due to the Lightbrand's lower base hit and the enemies having forest terrain, but it's nothing that the power of rigging can't solve. On turn 4, Azel gets a free chance to grab 3000 gold from the bishop. Lewyn tags out to give Tailte a chance to attack the pirate. Beowulf, Nisha, and Lachesis form a wall here that protects Sylvia from the Pegasi, and we take advantage of jealousy to let Dew not be exposed as well. Speaking of jealousy, I realize I never explicitly said this earlier, but we play through all of Generation 1 without ever resetting the game, because saving and reloading changes the jealousy lists in a way that is incompatible with LTC. Beowulf here shows off his ability to proc his way past the Pegasi, who neither he nor Alec would cleanly kill with the steel sword. Pegasi are quite rich, and one donates another 3000 gold to Azel here. The steel sword makes it to crit on this enemy face, as demonstrated by Beowulf here. After this, Beowulf peels off from our other units and visits the unclaimed villages on the map, just to show he can. He doesn't really do anything with all this gold, but unfortunately the couples who might actually want the extra gold do not have the time to visit them in this clear, including Dew. Once you cross onto the landmass before Thove, the bridge disappears, but that's why our engineer Dew tagged along. The village a little above and to the left of Sylvia would have given her the Safeguard, formerly known as the Shield Sword, a sword that grants +7 defense to the holder. It would have been nice to have, but Sylvia has no time to visit it in this clear. Azel gets a chance to grab 5000 more gold, which covers his extra expenses to prepare for this map. Erinys sends Tailte home so she can position herself for turn 9 correctly. Dew simply needs to wait in front of where the bridge was to make it usable again, and he takes a chance to steal 1000 more gold. We needed to bring 2 mounts to Thove to clear Sigurd's way to the castle, and Azel and Nisha will cover that job. Lachesis warps Sylvia back home, where she can get a turn of castle healing to prepare her for Fight 3, before cantoing next to Dew. Sigurd gets the bosskill with the Brave Sword and seizes Thove on turn 8. All the pirates were affiliated with Thove, so they will go away now. Seizing Thove initiates a map cutscene sequence that we have to sit back and watch. With a turn 8 seize, we will not get a chance to make further progress in the chapter until turn 14 player phase, so this will be some dead time to work on pairings. The yellow Pegasi from Silesse fly out to meet the red Pegasi of Zaxxon, and they seem roughly evenly matched at first. Sigurd sends himself home with the return ring. Azel turns in the Lightbrand and Paragon ring for other units to use and will park himself near the entrance to Thove for a while. Nisha turns around to prepare for some future combat. Lewyn takes the Paragon ring and finally starts his arena. I'll put a timestamp in the description to the end of his final fight, but in the middle I do show off half of a cool trick discovered by Veer. Lachesis warps Dew back to the home castle, and then will canto to Thove to self-warp. She then further cantos a tile away from the entrance to free it up. Then we complete Sylvia's Fight 3 and all of Lewyn's arena. As a rule of 20, you can promote. The reason we needed him to promote was because as a sage, he has bee staves letting him use warp. And by having Lewyn be the warper, we would not need to divert Edain or Claud for that job. I make a mistake here in selling off Elwind. I ended up buying it right back with him later, so it was just a waste of money. Dew will step out to give Tailte money, ending his turn. However, Lewyn still has a free turn, and he's in the home castle. Lewyn can buy warp, walk outside, and warp Dew back to Thove, so he still ends turn adjacent to Lachesis, completing the double staff trick. Which, with this, we can use a staff 2 times in a single turn, as long as the first use is by a unit with Canto near a castle away from home, and the second unit is using the staff starting from the home castle. We use it here to secure an extra adjacent between Dew and Lachesis, which matters given how tight their pairing timeline ends up being. Erinys returns Tailte, and she will run through the arena with the Paragon ring. I have Tailte keep the Paragon ring for the rest of the chapter after this, but that is a mistake. It would have been better to have Yamka or a gold dump Brigid buy it and carry it into the next chapter, given Tailte ends up selling and rebuying it in the next chapter anyway. Sylvia got herself damaged on Fight 4 to get a future Castle Heal Miracle setup. I'll drop a timestamp in the description with the end of Tailte's final arena fight. While the Pegasi armies may have seemed evenly matched, the red team have a special set of reinforcements, the Beigenritter of Yangvi. They've come packing brave bows, and they will wipe the floor with the Pegasi once they reach them. This whole part is kind of slow as we just wait for the yellow army to be annihilated. We do take some care to rig them to get hit by most attacks to ensure they don't stick around for too long and prolong the clear. Lachesis is locked to stay near Thove for a maneuver in a few turns, and as such, Dew is too. They do have the time to visit the village closest to Thove, so they will embark on that excursion. Now that Lewyn has Warp and these staves, he starts spamming it to grind EXP. In hindsight, I'm not sure if I chose the optimal times to repair Warp from a money point of view. Sigurd hands in his return ring here, and it may have been a good idea to have Sylvia be sent back home to buy that return ring. Right now, Medea and Brigid are using this dead time to farm jealousy turns, since both Sylvia and Tailte are with them. This turn is when the Beigenritter tear apart Team Yellow. The Beigenritter are the ones who will ultimately seize Silesse to open the way forward for us, so we want to ensure that they don't get slowed down. On this turn, the Beigenritter finish routing the yellows, and Pamela's squad will switch their AI to flying up to retake Thove. They have javelins and 24 attack, which may explain to you why we wanted to keep Nisha at 23 defense. Nisha is running to enter the mountains, where his path will intersect the Pegasi at an opportune time. Silesse falls to the enemy. This causes the Beigenritter to leave the map. A group of civilians flees Silesse's castle and will begin to run towards us. Civilians are EXP bags. Using the rescue command on one of them will grant a unit a full 100 EXP. We obviously like EXP bags, so we want to rush out to protect them from the enemy siege weapons. A group of axe fighters emerge to hunt them down, with Silesse currently undefended. Zaxxon also deploys a rather unique squad of enemies. Lamia's squad consists entirely of women, an unusual departure from the rest of Generation 1. They actually have some pretty good stats, so we need to send a star unit to deal with them. On turn 14, the LTC picks up again, though we will be doing something very different from past runs. Elaine grabbed the village, and Ira helped bridge the gap to Claud on this turn. Erinys and Sigurd charge forward and get danced by Sylvia. We have the space to dance an extra unit, and we will have that be Alec for reasons you'll see later. Holland runs up to take out the Wind Mage in the mountains as well. Erinys returning Sylvia was possibly an inefficiency. If Sylvia had the return ring, you could have her stick around for a turn to let Midir and Brigid farm an extra turn of jealousy. As things stand, Midir, Brigid, and Tailte move down, and they'll be the units who will rescue the civilians. Lachesis and Dew return back near Thove as well. A turn after the path opens up, Silesse's guards step out. The Axe Fighters actually have such bad hit that they will see 0 hit on Erinys, and as such will refuse to attack her. They actually put 0 hit on Sigurd as well, but only after factoring leadership, and they will end up all dying to him on this turn. Erinys flies down to take on all of Silesse's guards at once. This is the encounter where all of her rigged magic comes into play. It lets her two-shot all the enemies there. Alec kills the other Wind Mage and canters back to the right. Many of the Pegasi will ignore Nisha for now. Those who have watched prior LTCs may be alarmed at Sigurd's leisurely stroll. Older runs would have transferred the leg ring over to Sigurd and had him run full tilt for Zaxxon, and even Erinys would have been sent to Thove to fly down from there. But even if you did this, Sigurd would be one square short of seizing Zaxxon on turn 17, and the extra turn of slack lets us do something that no LTC has done before. Sylvia got her castle healing, and she will now finish her arena. I'll have a timestamp for the end of her final fight in the description. Sylvia being returned by Erinys gave Lewyn the chance to use Warp once on this turn, and he then sells it to Lachesis to buy it at Thove in preparation for next turn. Nisha begins engaging the Pegasi, but for now, they are more focused on getting to Thove and so mostly ignore him. Erinys can only stand to take one steel bow hit over here. Tailte needs 2 civilians. Sigurd has a clear path to Silesse, which lets him seize it. We needed Erinys to be promoted in order to return Sigurd immediately, opening up the entrance to Silesse at once. Erinys takes the chance to sell the Lightbrand, and now it's time for Revere's brilliant trick to prove its worth. Lachesis warps Azel to Silesse and then sells warp at Thove Castle at once. We had her buy the return ring earlier in preparation for a later turn. Azel buys the Lightbrand and cantos forward. Lewyn then buys warp and warps Sylvia to Silesse as well. Lewyn buys warp and warps Sylvia to Silesse. This allows Sylvia to dance for Azel and position herself 1 turn's movement ahead of Silesse, and Azel gets to move 2 full moves forward. Azel needs to be boosted forward in order to intercept Lamia's squad, who'll start moving now that Silesse has been seized. This also gets Pamela's squad to turn around to target Silesse, and Nisha is in position to intercept them now. There are a total of 6 civilians in this map, and we give 2 of them to Tailte so that she will promote for the next chapter, and then we give 3 to Brigid and 1 to Midir. The Javelin is getting close to 100 kills, which is why Nisha is critting so much. After his work in this chapter, Nisha is on track to level cap during the next chapter pretty comfortably. Azel can position himself as he pleases on this turn, with the only stipulation being he deals with enough of Lamia's squad to allow for a clear path next turn. With Elwyn, he could slaughter almost all of them in a single enemy phase, which is why I sold it to him earlier, but then I realized it wasn't needed for the strategy or even to level cap Azel in time. So I opted to put more kills on the Lightbrand instead. He player faces the Cleric to avoid her being inconvenient later. Azel can kill enemies who attack him at 2 range with the Lightbrand, though he obviously falls short at 1 range. Lewyn warped Sigurd over to Silesse to get him back on track. Zaxxon Castle is roughly 4 turns of movement for Sigurd from Silesse, and we have Sylvia positioned to dance for him twice to let him complete the ride in 2 turns. It took 3 turns to seize Silesse, and then 2 turns to seize Zaxxon, while prior LTC simply took 5 turns to get to Zaxxon. This means that we did not lose any turns by seizing Silesse, and in fact, we still have a spare turn to get something else done. Alec can actually get into the dance formation with Sigurd. I don't think he's strictly necessary, but Sigurd and Sylvia's positioning on this turn unavoidably places at least one of them in range of a killer bow. Alec with his Nihil can protect them from her. Lachesis uses her return ring to go back, which unfortunately will cost her an adjacent with Dew. On the final turn, Azel and Sigurd clear the path and form up for Sylvia. Zell will then pick off the left general to clear a path for Sigurd to seize. Lewyn will sell the warp, and Lachesis will buy it one more time, and warp Lewyn to Silesse. After Brigid claims the final civilian, Lewyn visits Silesse Castle. This leads into a special event where Lewyn gets his holy weapon, the Forseti. Forseti is in a vacuum the best holy weapon, though it actually ends up being overkill for most situations. We will break it out to deal with 2 specific enemy holy weapon users during this LTC though. Additionally, because Erinys was waiting nearby, she can talk to Lewyn to automatically marry him. It was previously believed that Forseti in this conversation costed a turn, but that is clearly not the case. Having the option of this instant pairing allows Lewyn and Erinys to do more useful things far apart from each other, and is what makes their marriage not mutually exclusive with pairing Dew with Lachesis. This also makes them the first discretionary pair to actually get hitched. Yamka will then clear the final arena and rig Sigurd to land all 4 hits of the Bravesword against the boss to complete Chapter 4 in 18 turns.